We're gonna figure out which anime is better, Attack on Titan or Jujutsu Kaisen. Both are coming off killer 2023s, and here's gonna be the criteria. Number 1 is characters, number 2 is animation, number 3 is fights, number 4 is world, number 5 is story. There will be a bonus round at the end with random fun stuff, and don't forget that depending on what you value, you may weigh one thing over the other. Now let's just get into it. Characters in Attack on Titan are super deep, and each has their own personal motivation with a deep background that'll generally shock you and are written with an insane amount of detail. Characters in Jujutsu Kaisen are like, wow, he's really sick. Now he's dead. She's a way better soccer. Dead. He's so sick. He's gone for the whole season. Is he the main character or is he the main character? Wait, but what about him? What's going on? Now that isn't really a fair comparison because characters in both of these series serve different purposes, and Attack on Titan characters are reacting to the plot in many ways, but a significant amount of screen time is spent on their reactions and backstories. For example, think a random character like Sasha, and when she was helping that girl while they were on the run in that village that was overrun by Titans. There's a bunch of implications from her going out on her own, from that girl being alone, leaving her family, and this girl just lost her parents, to then understanding Sasha's laid-back personality. But the fact there's so many layers to how she got there, I feel like at that point in watching, everyone was like, hold up. These characters aren't playing around, and each of them matter, and that was honestly when you started remembering characters' names in that huge cast. While Jujutsu Kaisen, you really only understand characters through their actions, like Megumi jumping to summon Mahagora every time he's in trouble. You can learn a lot about him through his actions because he is really willing to go berserk. Like, holy shit, someone gotta ask him if he's okay, because he's willing to go out there and die at every opportunity. And you understand him not through some long backstory that slows down the pace of the story. Some people theorize that this is because Gege hates writing a lot of his own characters, which is a theory that makes sense considering Gojo and Yuta are really the only characters with significant backstories in the anime. But this doesn't work against the story because of the amount of info you get from the actions of Nanami on death's door or Itadori getting angry. You understand them through their actions, not through exposition. At the same time though, looking at something like the main character, specifically Eren to Itadori, isn't even a fair comparison regardless of how you feel about Eren's ending with the whole bird thing. He goes on such a character journey through all the seasons and may make some jarring decisions in the last episode, but overall he's a great MC. Itadori, it's really hard to even resonate with him because of the lack of depth to his character in comparison. Yes, you have his motivation to help his friends, but in season 2 he rarely had any of the highlights. Don't get me wrong, there's definitely moments, but I don't think him to Eren is a fair comparison. In comparing antagonists, it gets a little dicey, but mainly because Attack on Titan, depending on how you look at it, the antagonists really shift and are often left ambiguous. But I don't think anyone here thinks that's a fair comparison either. You really don't know Kenjaku's motivation until the literal last episode. Mahito does have a lot of depth and is easily the most well-developed villain, and I would argue that even if you took the JJK manga into account, it still lacks compared to the likes of Zeke, Reiner, Marley as a whole, Beast Titan Zeke, and Eren himself. It's not really fair. As for supporting characters, there's so many in JJK that are awesome, and the cast is so wide without making the story messy. So many of them lack development. The likes of Mekamaru and Miwa are well developed, but the rest of the cast lacks that, and even Nobara was like, wait, she's dead? Like, we barely even know who you are. But it did make everyone go, holy shit, they're not playing around. As compared to Attack on Titan, everyone has a backstory and a place in the story. It's impossible to not like someone. Even Connie, Jahan, Mikasa, Armin, Levi, Erwin, almost everyone has a different favorite character, which is really impressive. All in all, I would say JJK has 8 out of 10 characters, whereas Attack on Titan gets that 10 out of 10. I don't think anyone would dispute this. JJK almost goes out of their way to push characters to the side to benefit the pace, and Attack on Titan, every single character is so polished and has a clear character arc as well. Number 2 is animation. This is difficult. I really do not know how to even decide, and I am a huge dumbass when it comes to animation, so I'm not going to get into all the technical stuff and pretend to understand drawing and all that. But with that being said, Attack on Titan obviously has 2 styles. I am of the mind that Wit is way better in literally every single aspect besides feasibility than Mappa. The fluidity in the animation, the cinematography throughout the entire show, some of these shots in the final season are mind-blowing, and to be honest, every season of AOT blows most of JJK season 1 out the water, but season 2 got some serious heat. Jujutsu Kaisen season 2 starts off and you're like, wow, they went crazy with this intro arc, but it is Gojo's backstory and it makes sense needing to deliver it. It's Gojo we're talking about, but then it keeps going and Gojo going and fighting Mahito, Jogo, and the boys is crazy, and then it keeps going and keeps going. At this point, it's the middle of the season and you heard all of this from Mappa employees about not being able to fulfill their vision, but then you're like, what were they not able to do? It is literally the middle of the season and Itadori vs Chozo, Mahagora, Sukuna, Jogo, Sukuna, Itadori, Mahito, Minato, Todo, it just keeps on going. Attack on Titan, although Wit killed it, there's definitely dips at moments with Mappa. Hey, calm down, I'm not talking about anything serious, but obviously the CGI isn't ideal. Some of the ways the characters were drawn were a little bit jarring, especially that shit when they started doing that thing with their eyes. Nothing too crazy, but the cinematography remained top tier. But I can understand when Wit was providing such a unique product, how someone could be a little upset with Mappa. With that being said, there's aspects of JJK animation style that maybe some people didn't like. Now, I haven't found these people, but even JJK had episode to episode differences in how characters and scenes were drawn. The Sukuna Jogo or the heavy glow stick lighting with Itadori Choso, I think they provided really unique production though. So here's what I've finalized. Attack on Titan is going to close out with a 9.5 out of 10. Jujutsu Kaisen is going to close out at 10 out of 10. Jujutsu Kaisen season 2 barely edges out AOT. I don't want to be a complete Wit apologist, but I'd much rather the style to Mappa. Don't forget, everything is weighed differently in terms of criteria, and stuff like entertainment is going to be overarched throughout everything. So something as subjective as animation isn't going to weigh as much as story and characters in my final decision. Moving on to number 3, fights. Now this is really hard, which may come as a shock, but what battles do for an anime needs to be defined. In anime in general, fights are there to tell a tale, a battle of themes, perspectives, point of views, and make a significant point in a character's journey and show how far they've come. But the words of Stan Lee of "the one who wins is the one who the author wins" shows that greater narrative is why fights are the way they are. They are supposed to be really hype and glue our ADHD minds to the screen and be so entertaining that you don't care about all that plot mumbo jumbo, and you'll still enjoy your time watching it even if you don't understand the story. So when it comes to these two, they both use fights in different ways to such a high level. Attack on Titan, every battle feels like a battle of morals or character perspectives. They reveal pain and suffering and war. Eren versus Reiner after just figuring out that his friend betrayed him, Mikasa throwing herself at Reiner, Erwin's charge at Zeke giving up on his dream to find the truth of the world, Zeke who at that time was only a Titan that could talk, and then Zeke versus Levi after Levi just let his friend die. This not only showed character implications, but these moments were of course hype beyond belief, with an insane soundtrack blasting as all these character journeys were reaching a climax. And then Jujutsu Kaisen, where it's like 90% of the narrative is taking place within these fights, whether it's explaining the power system or the typical anime backstory flash. Pretty much every episode of Jujutsu Kaisen is straight hands, and every moment is handled within these fights, from Toji realizing Megumi is his son, to Geto fighting Toji after Rika died, Itadori reacting to Nobara's death. The story doesn't breathe, but actually makes it even better because the narrative somehow makes sense when it literally never slows down. And although this sounds boneheadedly simple, it's not, and somehow it works with the sheer amount of fights, and also changing the way characters fight is a huge way they show character development. Itadori by the end of the Mahito fight was an absolute vessel of destruction. He no longer cared about any of his other values. He was there to rip Mahito's head off. Gojo's point in the story is fully explained through how characters react to him in fights, and the depth of that ridiculously complicated power system is fleshed out through the fact that Gojo doesn't instantly win every fight, except when he does. Whereas in Attack on Titan, all of these fights are set up through extensive dialogue and non-battle plot moments, and what makes these fights hit so hard is that everything is hidden from the audience. At the end of season 1, when it was unclear who the female Titan was, and then the surprise reveal of Annie, where everything is revealed at once, and both the audience and the characters are shocked about the reveal and getting over the plot revelations. It's done through this fight that has a massive scale and visually stunning animation, and every fight builds and is more intense than the rest. During the Marley invasion, whilst the speech is going on, Eren is talking to Reiner before the battle starts, and you feel tense. Eren is cold and calculated. The speech is so dynamic, and then Eren pops out and goes berserk. He's killing everyone, and then Mikasa sees him, and all of a sudden she looks more scared than any other character, and then Eren just smashes everyone. But with Jujutsu Kaisen, you start to understand where every character fits, and there's a lot less setup with the fights, and stuff just happens. But the visual implications and hype factor play a lot more into it. When Sukuna fights Jogo, it's sort of like two bros who are like, you want to wrestle? But it did serve to show the scale of power of both Jogo and Sukuna, and how they compare versus everyone else in the series. But you can't say it was set up as well as an Attack on Titan fight, but it was probably more hype in terms of visuals, and some of the more plot heavy fights I feel are really with Toji, because it showed the extent you can go without curse energy, and I really would have liked to see him fight more, because for one, he was a complete badass, and two, he was one of the most unique fighters. All in all, I would give JJK around a 9.5 out of 10, and Attack on Titan a 9.75 out of 10. Look, I know this is probably my most controversial opinion on here, and maybe it's because I watched so much battle shonen, but after a while you get numb to a lot of the visuals. And JJK did shock me, but I would have really appreciated a lot more value in their fights versus AOT, where everything feels like it means something. And maybe I will waver on this, in my opinion will fluctuate, but for now that's what I'm going with. God damn it, the comments are going to be so brutal. Let's just jump to the next one, World. I feel as though World involves the setting, lore, system, and organizations. I know some people may see this and think AOT clears, but JJK's World is pretty great, as well as it has an expansive system of people who all want their own things. The Zenin clan, the elders, Kenjaku, curses, Itadori, Gojo, Jujutsu High, Tokyo, and Kyoto. There's a lot of moving parts here, and being in modern Tokyo is really sick. We literally see people taking pictures of locations in real life versus the anime, which is really awesome. Those memes of where Gojo and Geto broke up are pretty great, as well as the train station they were at. And I'm not gonna lie, I went to Japan not too long ago and it was pretty awesome to see how realistic it is to the anime. But it is also fascinating that you're gonna have a battle shonen in a realistic Japan. Most anime would be scared of that or completely ignore the people, but nah, they don't. The people are just there wandering around, and they aren't just tucked away and ignored, which is why most of them end up dead. But still, it's pretty cool in terms of lore. The Sukuna era is yet to be fleshed out, and even in the manga is still kept pretty hidden, but it's something that seems genuinely interesting when you know how long some of these characters have been alive, and even the clans are really interesting to me. I wish there was an arc doing a deep dive on each of them, maybe an arc with a war between the clans or something, because they're clearly important to the story, but sometimes can come across as plot devices more than anything. With Attack on Titan, I mean, holy shit. Scouts, military police, the people with roses, government, priests, Marley, Jaegerists, royal family, Eldians, honorary Eldians. I definitely missed a lot, but Jesus Christ, it is crazy. And this setting is kinda inspired by old Germany, like literally some town in Germany, if you didn't know, it takes heavy inspiration from. It's also similar to post-war Berlin. It's a really sick setting, and even visually when paired with the animation, I almost got Paris vibes from the Marley invasion, and all of the lore is fleshed out with Kreesch's backstory and then Ymir's backstory. It feels like we got the full picture, especially considering the whole overarching theme of AOT is that everything is a loop, so we almost understand everything even though we haven't seen everything. But with the world that's very, very detailed, you can appreciate the story even though it's a crazy fantasy world. Everything is connected, like when they were in the castle and Reiner was like, you can read this, and Ymir was just like, yeah, I can read this. The world, much like animation, isn't the biggest deal in the world, but I'd say JJK is a solid 7.5 out of 10, and AOT is a 9 out of 10. I don't think I'll get stoned for this one, but JJK is just a really cool world, but you can tell Gege doesn't really care about that kind of stuff compared to Isayama, who gave Attack on Titan an insane amount of depth of world. Alright boys, it's time for the big one, story. JJK's narrative is severely underrated because of how great the fights are. Not to get into the issue of repeating too much information, but it's simply just done through the fights. Think about the fact that there's a god figure in Gojo and yet the story still works, as well as the fact that while he's being sealed, the story has such a high level of tension that is needed. And yes, there is an issue of the fact that sometimes it feels like stuff just happens, but JJK is a fast moving train and you either got to get on board or get out of the way because you got to be strapped in to understand it, as well as the fact you need to know the characters are the meat and potatoes of this story. Geto and Gojo, a clash of ideals where Gojo seems crazy, then Rika dies out of nowhere, shocking the audience, showing off the gruesome nature of this world. Gojo freaks out but plants the inception of an idea in Geto's brain. Everyone around Geto dies, he goes berserk and kills everyone. Gojo chooses not to side with him, and everything that happened in Zero with Utah defeating Geto and Gojo killing him, connecting to season 1 when the elders want to kill Itadori because he's too dangerous to be kept alive. And you're sitting there like, yeah, they're kind of right. But then Gojo doesn't want him to die because Gojo is God and he can handle everyone. No manga spoilers, but you know. Like, you know. In season 1, it's reinforced that characters can and will die. Junpei is torn. Is he good? Is he bad? They bullied him. He's alone. Mahito seems like a friend, but Itadori is a friend too. Junpei, boom, pops, dead. He's gone. How is Itadori gonna react? He's gonna go crazy, but this world is harsh, and too bad, Itadori. You're not on the level to beat Mahito yet. The detention center. Itadori's about to go crazy and save his friend because he's the main character. That's what he's gonna do. Nope, dead. He's brought back, but hey, Sukuna can pop out whenever he wants. Now we're gonna use kids to try and kill kids. Season 2, Geto seemingly takes over Shibuya, sending God. Nope. Geto shocks Gojo. The only thing that can stop the strongest man in the world is his friend that he drove away. Everyone is piling into Shibuya. Then the Black Air Force energy, Toji is back because why not? And then this badass Zenin leader is there. He can't die. He's an old character in anime. Wrong. Nanami, he's a badass teacher. He's too cool to die. Nope. Jogo, he's got to be one of the strongest. Nope. Nobara is Sakura. How could she die? What the hell? Itadori is gonna get that satisfying revenge. Mahito killed everyone. Sukuna flatlined Tokyo. He at least got to get Mahito. Nope. Wait, that's the end. They lost. they literally lost. Like, no one won anything. This is what makes a narrative so enticing, because you never know what's gonna happen next, who's gonna win and who's gonna lose. There is so much at stake. Now with Attack on Titan, it's like every single moment, every single scene, every line of dialogue, every character in the background, every scene drawn is a plot point. The story is written so concisely over all the episodes, and everything will shock you. And no, I'm not gonna go through everything because that would be an entire another video, but the Reiner Bertholdt revealed, it just came out of nowhere. But how could this happen? But then you rewatch it and you realize it was foreshadowed so many times. Bertholdt literally tried to bite his hand. Everything feels so obvious. How could we not see it? And then Reiner has flashbacks because he was a kid sent there, and he's suffering through trauma and imposter syndrome. He no longer knows who he is, and who is the enemy. Is he even the enemy? Is he even wrong for going on this mission? He was trying to bring success for his family. You understand what they all went through, and all of a sudden you're questioning who the enemy is. And that's the beauty of Attack on Titan. No one is the enemy. They're all just trying their best to protect what they care for. And the narrative presents this information at interesting points. Normally it would be before it happens, or during the fight, or even immediately after, but you have time to marinate in plot points and make decisions for yourself. And once you reach a conclusion and think you have it figured out, the story yanks you in another direction, and instead of thinking it's BS, you're like, holy shit, this makes sense. Taking Eren going back in time to set up key events in the story, some people may hate that and feel like the story is underserved, but in the landscape of Attack on Titan, it makes sense. He saw everything when he touched his story, and that moment took so long to build up to. It was even foreshadowed with titles, some people saying he was even there, and you realize all that Eren had been dealing with, the amount of realities he's lived in. Yes, I don't love the Doctor Strange paradox, but it works within the story because it's not like the solution was some clear-cut victory with a bunch of success. Eren's goal isn't world peace, because that is not possible. Attack on Titan isn't a feel-good story. He simply just wants a good life for his friends and the people close to him, and he's doing it in the only way he knows how. So who wins? What I would say is that Jujutsu Kaisen has an 8.5 out of 10 story, and Attack on Titan has a 10 out of 10 story. I don't think anyone would dispute this. The narrative of Attack on Titan isn't just one of the greatest stories in anime, but one of the greatest stories ever told in history, and I don't think that's an exaggeration. Now to the fun stuff, the lightning round. Soundtrack, I think Attack on Titan takes this. Like, there's so many bangers in here. I listen to it while I'm walking to school because I am a loser. Humor, JJK, I think it's funny, the chibi style, even though some people are sick of it. Aesthetic, Attack on Titan, especially the wit. I am such a wit defender, I'm sorry. Non-story lore, so stuff that hasn't been shown in the anime, I would say JJK. I'm really interested in a lot of their world. Character designs, probably JJK, because I feel like the likes of Gojo are pretty sick, even though they're simple. Attack on Titan also has pretty simple designs. MC, AOT, I mean, I don't even know who the fuck, who even is the MC of JJK. Intro / endings, like the whole visuals and stuff, I'm going JJK. I'm sorry. I know that might be recency bias, my bad, but that's what it is. With that being said, before I say who I think wins, if you could leave a like, comment, and subscribe. These videos take a while to make, and I really appreciate the feedback on them. So let me know what you want to see next. And with that being said, who is the king? Who is the best? Which is the better anime? What do I prefer more? Which one entertains me more? So, it's gotta be AOT, and even considering manga to this point, I would still say AOT. The fact that the journey's over and the story is still compelling, the characters are still deep, the animation is crisp. Although Jujutsu Kaisen has entered the realm of the greats, I still think there needs to be more before it competes with the likes of Attack on Titan. AOT just makes you feel something, feel more moved than any story and more shocked than any other anime in the past, where you're actually sitting there thinking about life, relating it to the real world, and just asking yourself, what did I just watch? So if you enjoyed this video, check out JJK vs One Piece, and like I said, leave a like, subscribe, and don't forget, we're just getting started, we're gonna stay consistent, and I'll see you in the next video.